On the 4th of November 2013, the University of Leicester announced to the world's press that they had found the remains of Richard III. The media frenzy that ensued afterwards raises the question, who was Richard III? And why is he one of the most infamous monarchs in English history? Richard was born on the 2nd of October 1452, at the beginning of a period traditionally known as the War of the Roses. This was a war between the two noble houses of York and Lancaster, who were scrambling for power after the 100 Years' War between France and England. At the age of 10, Richard was appointed Governor of the North by his brother King Edward IV, making him the richest noble in England. Richard received his first taste of battle by 18, in which he is said to have been a fearsome warrior. By 25, he was already a proven military commander by helping his brother King Edward IV regain the throne. Upon Edward IV's sudden death, Richard was named Lord Protector to his two nephews, Edward's successor, the 12-year-old Edward V, and his younger brother Richard. Richard's nephews were taken to the royal lodgings in the Tower of London to await Edward V's coronation. Just before the coronation could take place, an assembly of lords and commoners petitioned to Richard that the marriage between Edward IV and the prince's mother was unlawful, and he instead was the rightful heir and king. He accepted the petition and was crowned king soon afterwards. The princes were scarcely seen after this point until they disappeared altogether. Tudor historian Sir Thomas More claimed that the princes were smothered to death by their own pillows, but this is merely speculation. They were forever known as the princes in the Tower. Despite Richard III now being crowned king, many of his subjects did not wish to see a Yorkist king on the throne, most notably the Lancastrian Henry Tudor. Richard and Henry's forces met on the Bosworth Field, with an army that was said to substantially outnumber Henry's. Lord Stanley, who hadn't yet made his loyalty clear, joined the battle with his forces positioned away from the main fighting. With an advantage in numbers, Richard was confident he would win. In fact, he was so confident that he directly charged into Henry's personal guard, in an attempt to end the battle by killing Henry. This was a mistake, as Lord Stanley charged his troops into the fold, with the intention of killing Richard. Richard was unhorsed and was said to have been killed with a blow to the face. Richard's naked body was paraded through the centre of Leicester by Henry Tudor to give proof of his death. His body was later secretly buried in the Greyfriars Monastery. The body took a vast amount of time to be found, primarily because of the rumour that his body was thrown in the river, which misdirected historians for hundreds of years. Richard III was the last English king to die in battle on English soil, since Harold II was killed at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. With Richard III's death, so came the end of the Plantagenet dynasty. On the first day of the dig, they found a human leg bone. Little did they know they had found Richard III. Through advanced scientific research methods such as carbon dating and DNA testing through a distant relative of Richard, they were able to determine that it was in fact him. From the evidence that was uncovered through the discovery of his remains, scientists have been able to determine the true cause of his death. With over 10 fatal injuries to his body, it was a blow to his head with a sharp object that killed him. The Richard III Society has thousands of members from all over the globe, including America, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. They strive to promote and research the life of this monarch, and to reassess the many misconceptions that many people have of Richard III. They were able to help raise the money for the dig to uncover his remains. Without their help and funding, Richard may never have been found. Early accounts of Richard say that he was a king that represented the common people, his most notable achievements being: he brought the regional government under the control of the central government, he ordered the translation of the laws from French to English so that it could be understood by all, he improved the bail system to protect suspected criminals from having their property seized, he created the Court of Requests, a court in which poor people could have proper legal representation, and he banned the restrictions on printing and the sale of books. The common misconceptions of Richard III are believed to have come from Shakespeare's portrayal of him. Shakespeare depicts him as a ruthless tyrant who murdered his nephews to take the throne for himself. He used the disfigurement of a withered arm and a hunchback to represent a contemporary evil image. Most historians now agree that this was Tudor propaganda, and with his remains being closely studied, it's been proven that he did not have a withered arm, and although he did have a curvature of the spine, he would have not had a noticeable hunchback. As he was such a popular playwright at the time, this image of him stuck, and has been consistently shown through new actors and directors. Beloved king or tyrant? You decide.